We're going to be talking about Commerce Kickstart, tips and tricks. My name is Josh Miller. I've been a Commerce guy for about a year now. I work on the research and development team with Ryan Srama, which thankfully he hasn't shown up yet.
He is here.
He's here in spirit now.
There should be a switch to turn on promotion part. As opposed to
Well,
We'll see.
you think?
you just hit.
I think you got it.
Maybe I got it. We'll see. I got excited when I did this presentation and decided to use Deck.js instead of any kind of presentation tools that Google gave me or Keynote gave me. And that's available freely on GitHub. That's what this little guy is right here. And this entire presentation is on GitHub. In fact, if you download it, install it, and run it, you can click that and go back to it. I have the link at the end of the presentation. All right. So the primary question is, right now, what is Commerce Kickstart 2? And perhaps a better question would be, what is commerce? Does anybody care to define either of those for me?
Is it a system for
Selling
selling products
stuff?
online?
Yes, we sell products online. Specifically, it's taking Drupal and being able to sell things through payment gateways and everything else that comes into that. Commerce Kickstart 2 is a demo store with content. Essentially, you install it and it gives you this one big store all completely set up. If you were just in, I can't think of his name, I think his name was Nick, the Acquia search guy, and his, what? Yes. If you were in his session, we'll be going over Search API really quickly here. It gets completely set up and it's functional with facets and everything, Commerce Kickstarts 2. So if you actually want to learn a little bit about search faceting, that's one way to get at it with the demo store with content. It's also a development tool with fancy store admin features. There's a great set of themes. First of all, there's a great installer theme if you ever want to create your own distribution, because anything in Drupal is under the GPL, so you could fork Kickstart and make your own distribution on that. There's a great admin theme that was released by Aaron Dudenhofer called Shiny. I'll show you that in a second. And it's really focused in on Commerce Kickstart 2 store administrators, not site builders like we are. Probably your client is my guess based on the people that I've talked to here. You guys are building sites as opposed to using sites. So Kickstart 2 is designed to enable you to quickly demo a site as well as build some features for the store administrators. Finally and completely, it is a distribution. It's a collection of Drupal modules designed to work in a certain way, and it even has a couple patches. When you're installing the latest version, you may be installing the dev version of a couple modules because those just work and we know they work. And you're using our distribution, so we know you're going to use that version. We'll get into that in a second, though. So this is what it looks like when you install the demo store. A couple latecomers here. And the demo store is a themed store. In fact, last count, I've found over 100 different sites that look very similar to this, but they've changed like the logo and they're actually selling things. You could do that. I don't necessarily recommend doing that, but a lot of stores have done that. And it comes fully featured, including a listing of products. These are actually faceted search pages that you can go and look at, like the taxonomy, and you can go into the product pages. And what we've done is we've set up an entire store to really just as a use case to show you how to build it. But the coolest thing, I think, is when you go into the administration side of it. Now you'll note this blue bar across the top, that's for store administrators, not for site builders. So anybody used to seeing admin menu with drop-down menus will probably start to hate your life when you see this. Because you're going to spend like all of your time in structure and in configuration. It is like buried. And I'm constantly, when I'm using this online, trying to tell people, well, you go here and you go there, I find I go to advanced settings a lot. and I've been tempted to turn off the menu, but I have to live in it. I have to eat my own dog food, right?
What file doesn't play?
Admin menu will work.
It will. It will. In fact, you can disable that as much as you want, but I try to work with the default. We have some cool things in here, like the quick edit, which just loaded a product and all the variations. You can change some of the stuff inline, click save, and it'll work. Like if I wanted to disable that particular size. I just ran out of those. It's gone. It's disabled. So that's the distribution demo. And that's what Commerce Kickstart 2 is. So we're going to talk a few things. I'm just going to go through a couple tips. I have 8 tips for you. Some of them you might consider tricks. We'll see. Tip number 1. I highly recommend eating lots of bacon, dark chocolate, while petting kittens. I suppose you could do them all at the same time. I don't know that bacon and chocolate go well together. Some people like it. Some
Go cheese.
I've tried it before. I don't know. Cheese. I missed cheese in this. Okay. Thankfully, you're all here at a camp, so you are familiar with why a community is important. And Drupal Commerce is no exception. We have a huge community. There are typically, in a day, I wake up, I log into IRC, there's about 130 people in the Drupal-Commerce channel, and I'll see somewhere between 30, maybe 40 conversations throughout the day where people are asking questions and getting answers, not just from me, but from everybody in the community, people that are actually building sites. But I do get paid to sit in that channel and answer questions. So, and hopefully enable you guys to answer those questions too. So the tip number 1 is very simple. The community always wins. And if you didn't realize this, I was talking about this earlier. There's a great site that I manage called DrupalCommerce.org. I didn't design it. Aaron Dudenhofer designed it, from what I understand. But we have, that's just the homepage. There's a great deal of content that gets updated frequently. For example, I haven't looked at this for 2 or 3 days, but the questions and answers section here, like I said, we have a lot more questions than answers. For a while we had one guy, his name was Real Scorpion. He answered about 50 questions in 3 days. No idea where he came from or where he went. I kind of want him to come back. Like, I'm tempted to internet stalk this guy because it was awesome. When you do get a guaranteed answer, or at least the person who asked the question accepts the answer, we do notify everybody on that list. So the idea is we're trying to collect people together around ideas. There are lots of communities that do this, but I implore you to come to DrupalCommerce.org and please use this content because we're trying very hard to curate this information and not put it out there. Because what's really great is you can use our Apache Solr search to say if you wanted to do line item, well, let's just learn about line items. You can go up here and it's going to search through all the commerce videos, all the commerce documentation, all the commerce questions and answers, as well as anything else that's on the site. It gives us a nice faceted result here. You can go through and look at all the tags, etc., filtered by author. I highly recommend filtering by this author. That's Ryan. He's the guy that gave the keynote. Usually his answers and his documentation is better than mine. Normally that gets a laugh. Okay, tip number 2. Yes. This happens a lot, and by a lot I mean I think a lot of people don't realize this. You can start with a demo store. See, I'm at the demo store right now. It has content in here. You can delete this content, you can change this content, but it's a demo store. There are things that are hard-coded into it. I highly recommend you use the demo store and the non-demo store to actually build with Commerce Kickstart. So install it twice, but only use the non-demo to build your site. On top of that, I also implore you to not use the theme here, but to come up with your own theme. It doesn't take long. Throw some colors at it, maybe add some different images, change the layout a little bit. Before long, you have yourself a Kickstart functional theme, but it's completely different. Now, how would you go about that? It's during the installation process. Now, I was going to go ahead and go through this and go to the next page, which is what I want to talk about. But I want to point this out. When you're installing Commerce Kickstart 2, this is a great practice for a demo store that you just want to play with a client. You just don't want to think about username, password, that kind of stuff. Horrible idea if you want to actually build a site on this. So always change my username and password unless, like, I would like to flip that default. But just wanted to point that out. We're going to leave it because it's a demo. Save and continue and hope my machine doesn't blow up. Because we have about 10 different versions of Kickstart running
Can I
here.
ask you a quick
Sure.
question while you're in the installation? Do you need to install Drupal before the Kickstart, or
Kickstart
it's
will-
separate?
You can download Kickstart with Drupal all together. And you run through the installation just the one time. It's a distribution.
Okay.
If you go to DrupalCommerce.org /project /_ Kickstart, if you go there, that's where you would download it. And you're going to want to, I would recommend, just go ahead and download this right here. That link defaults to everything. The Drupal installation, Kickstart installation, etc. You have to know what you're doing to do anything else. If you want to see exactly how many different types of versions you can download, you can click on View All Releases. And we have core, tar, zip, no core, tar, zip, and then not sure what those other two are. Oh, I know. These are the make files. So you could compile that on your own server and bring in the code for yourself without Drupal.org's help. I'm like 13 kilobytes. That's okay. So we were talking. Oh, start with a demo store, build with a non-demo store, and here we are. The incredibly important question: do you want to install the demo store? People forget or don't realize that they can go back and do this. After you've installed the demo store, there's a little page you can go and say, reset my site, and it'll take you back to this page in the installation. You can click no. Then you can choose a couple features here to go ahead and install to help you get started. I tend to not select anything. Maybe I select that because it's great for store administrators.
Why not zoom in gallery mode?
You can, if you like the zoom and gallery mode that comes with Kickstart. There's been some talk internally recently of changing it because it has some bugs with Internet Explorer. I would go to the issue queue and see exactly what's going on with that before launching.
Oh, I've been building a site with Internet Explorer, and I have had some fun.
Yeah, of course. So you could do zoom and gallery mode. All this does is it creates a display mode, and it uses a display formatter for an image field.
About to.
So you're not getting a lot if you understand what I just said. You're getting a ton if you don't understand what I just said. So don't be like this guy and try to break things that you don't need to break. Tip number 3, you can build powerful faceted searches using a search API. Go to my magical tip 3A tab here. This is the all products page. I think this is the reason to install and use Commerce Kickstart because I feel like I know a lot about Drupal. I don't know if I could set this up in one day. And you can get this going in a couple minutes. It's functional. You can actually search by colors. I'm looking for the actual color. Search, gender, content type, all that stuff. So faceted search is what this looks like. Tip 3B, go ahead.
Does faceted search require Solar?
No, because we're using Search API. And we're using Search API because we don't want to try to set up a Solar server during the Drupal installation.
Good idea.
But, and this is a big but, I believe we try to use Solar for any major large stores for the same reason that Nick said in his last presentation. There may be some scalability issues with Search API. Regardless, the fact that this is all set up and working for you may just override the fact that it might run a little bit slower. We'll see. But this is where you can go to edit the Search API settings. And I just wanted to take you through this really quickly. To get there, you go under Site Settings, Advanced, Configuration, then you click on Search API, and this is where we're at. Fields, every field that's connected to a product or a product display shows up in this list. So there's a lot of stuff you can index here. By a lot, I mean a lot. Everything's duplicated. If you install the commerce_search API, it sets it all up for you automatically. And that's what comes in Kickstart 2, but you can install this separately. You can change things like, I think I just added, and you can see it here, the content type. That wasn't a part of the original installation. In fact, I bet if I refresh, you won't see it. And it's really easy to add things like this by going to the fields and selecting things like I checked that content type. And once you've checked it, you can go into facets. And this page is a lot less scary because it's actually the things that were checked in the last one. And you can go in and look at, like, say, this content type. If we want a facet based on the content type, you can enable it. Go down to the bottom. See, that's less scary. It's only 2 scrolls. Drupal. Oh, they're wonderful.
There's a module for
There's modules for just about
that.
everything.
Yeah, it's sticky, added something.
So this is what the configuration page would look like for that content type, and it's gone because I hit refresh. I'm going to refresh it again because I just enabled it, and it should come right back. That's actually a very handy thing. In fact, I would call this something different than content type. Maybe I would call it products or product types. And to do that, since we're using Drupal, and that's just a block, you can just configure the block very easily and just call it product types. Save block. And that's what I love about Kickstart 2, Commerce, all of this, because I understood Drupal well before I understood Commerce, and everything I knew about Drupal just carried right over into the things that get set up for Commerce. Okay, next tip. Tip number 4. Product variations and product displays. If you're not familiar with Commerce, you have no idea what I just said. If you are familiar with Commerce, you may disagree with me on what I'm calling these. If you're familiar with Drupal and not familiar with Commerce, you might call this a custom entity and this a node. And really that's all it is. Product displays are nodes with a product reference field. I am referencing 3 different products. Each product has a different color. Maybe they're all of the same type, maybe they're of different types, and maybe they all have different sizes. And Commerce goes through and finds all of these references, all their differences, and then it builds widgets to help you select various things. Kickstart, out of the box, has this set up. Kickstart 1, if you install it instead of 2, has none of this set up. And we have about 10 pages of documentation to show you how to set this up. It's very simple because all you have to do is tell the Add to Cart button, the display formatter, to render these types of fields. And then you go into the product and you change those display formatters as well. So product displays are nodes. That's what I want to get across here, okay? These are nodes. These are entities. A lot of people, and by a lot of people, I mean just about everyone I've talked to, want to know why we can't just have product variations. Is anybody familiar with UberCart? A couple hands. UberCart did this. UberCart said, hey, your node is a product, and if you want variations, you just tell your node to be small, medium, and large, and that's it. And you have one product that's small, medium, or large. While that's easy to set up on the back end, it's hard to do things like stock. It's very, very hard to do things like stock. So Commerce has one specific entity for every specific kind of shirt. A great example of this is a t-shirt shop. Each kind of t-shirt is going to take up space on your shelf. A small white t-shirt takes up the same space as a medium white t-shirt, maybe not the same space, as an extra large red shirt. So each kind of shirt you're talking about is a product variation. And if you want to display these to a client or to whoever's showing up on your store, you have to take these physical shirts and put them on a node and say, hey, look at my pretty shirts. A big gotcha is you can't actually view product variations. There's no URL to actually view a product variation. there's some sandboxes out there. You could like force it, but then there's really no way to add the product variation to a cart because it's all based around nodes. I would look for Ryan's presentation in DrupalCon Portland because he's going to be talking about how this changes in Commerce 2. This is using Commerce 1. Tip number 5, we've got some social people and our clients are social and they just think Facebook's everything. So they really want people to register with your store through social media. How do you do that? Well, Commerce Kickstart out of the box comes with an OAuth connector. The OAuth connector is enabled by default. You can go here and you'll see 3 of these yellow columns right here. I have a 4-minute screencast on DrupalCommerce.org that shows you how to get Facebook to give you the numbers and stuff that you need for this. I'll show you real quick what mine look like, please. Well, I'll just delete this app when we're done, so I don't get Facebook on me for like, you've got some sort of weird app problem. But you essentially need the key and the secret, and you got to fill a CAPTCHA out on Facebook, and that's about it to get those 2 things. Once you have those 2 things, we'll try to demo this. I don't know why my search is. Just click log out. So when I click log in, I should see, I haven't actually tested this, I should see, yeah, there it is, log in with your account on Facebook. So you click that, and what's going to happen is it's going to take me to Facebook, it's going to give me a big error, and you're all going to not believe me that this actually works.
Could help start.
What it should, yeah, I was like, oh man, this is working, this is great. I just set this up an hour ago. Based on the screencast that I did 3 months ago. What you should see here is a little drop down. What you should see here is a little drop down that says, you know, who do you want to have access to your posts? We've all seen them with apps, etc. You click OK, and what it'll do is it'll take you back to the store, and it'll fill in a registration form, but it won't submit it. That was a big what's going on with me because I didn't realize that it won't actually create an account. It just starts the account process, and it gives you as store owners access to their Facebook account. So it's really more for store owners than it is for users. There's probably some rule scripting you could do to make this a seamless process. You click that, you click OK, and you're just logged in. Tip number 6. This one's a doozy, and it looks like I have 13 minutes up there, so I'm going to try to be quick. Customizing the Kickstart taxonomy menu. Those of you that earlier said you had installed Kickstart 2, have you ever tried to add a menu item to a Kickstart installation, demo or non-demo? Anyone? Okay. I was showing Ryan this yesterday, and he's like, I've never tried that, because he's always just programming. Let's see, what tip am I on? 6. That's why I named these. Oh, by the way, before I forget, see, I was watching that video and everything. This is the blog post on DrupalCommerce.org with a bunch of documentation, fancy graphs, and a video. We try to help people use the tools that are out there. So tip 6, what we have here is a menu, and you might think, wow, that's a menu block. I'll just go to the structure, find menu, and change it. So you go to structure, under site settings, because we're site builders. You click menus. Here's all the menus that are in your site. Maybe you click list links. And you find, oh, this is exactly what I want to do because here's my menu. I can even reorganize them, etc. I can disable them, I can edit them, I can do whatever the heck I want with them. The problem is, you don't want to add a link because these are generated. And we don't necessarily do the best job of telling you that they are generated. And the way we want you to, or the way we did it to build the demo, to actually add menu, is to go through your taxonomy, because that's obvious. And you go to your taxonomy and you're like, holy cow, that's a lot of taxonomy. And it is. Every product type has its own category. And then we have meta types. There's a lot that comes in with the demo. The one we're looking for is called collection. We'll just go ahead and look at list terms and see if you recognize this list. Does that look familiar? Let's go ahead and add a term, see what happens. And add a term, we're going to call this next collection doll heads. Because that's creepy. Why not be creepy with your demo store? Okay, here's the problem, okay? It just created a new term, doll heads. And you wouldn't know that's a problem. Except I know that's a problem because it should say, also added it to the menu. And if I go and look at the menu and hit refresh, and this is probably hour number 3 that you're trying to add something to your menu, doll heads is not appearing in my menu. So what's going on? We'll go back to site settings and structure and look at taxonomy. We're 3 levels in now. Drop menu hasn't helped us yet. Taxonomy. We're going to go to collection. But this time, instead of list terms, I'm going to click edit vocabulary. Because the person who developed the module called taxonomy menu thought this would be the great place to put it. And you can go through and read all this and all the cool features that it does, or you can just believe me and click this button right here. Select rebuild the menu on submit. Now what this has done, what the module author has done, is he's done something here because for some reason it doesn't always work the first time. After I click save here and we go and add another taxonomy term, it will rebuild the menu. I don't know why.
Wouldn't it reappear if you cleared the cache?
No, you can clear the cache, you can do all kinds of stuff. It actually, Drupal thinks the menu's fine.
Yeah.
The only thing that's altering the menu is taxonomy menu, and what we need to do is tell taxonomy menu essentially clear the cache. So hopefully, if it worked, we're going to click X. It's going to refresh. We see doll heads. All right. So that's how you add stuff to the menu for Commerce Kickstart 2. Question.
Just way back on where the user tried to add the menu item in the obvious way.
You can do that. You do that, and then you go and try to get taxonomy menu to regenerate it. You'll lose all those things.
Right. So why isn't that form altered to give the user some feedback?
That would be an awesome feature request if it doesn't exist. Look in the issue queue. Love to see that feedback, and that's the kind of stuff that that's the kind of feedback that we're trying to incorporate as we get through this. Features like this were built many months ago. And if there's no bug reports, then we don't necessarily get them. So there's your doll heads.
You guys must be aware, but that menu does not show well in IE8 at all.
Oh, really? Would love to see a bug report for that too. Something else that's going on with this menu is it is mobile responsive. So just to show you that, because I just think that's cool, is it's using Omega, and it starts to collapse, and you get doll heads right there, along with company chat that you're probably not supposed to see. So, okay. Next tip. Let's see how many minutes we have left. 7 minutes. Okay, we're doing okay. One of the final tips I have for you is to become a hero by using the service providers. These 8, am I counting right? 10 service providers come with Commerce Kickstart 2. When you install it, some of these are even already enabled. For example, Giraffe. Has anybody ever heard of Giraffe? Has anybody ever heard of Google Analytics? They're Google Analytics for product data. They have some awesome data. I'll see if I can remember this. What is it called? There's some sort of bird.
Flightless or flight?
There's a demo.
Dodo.
No.
Everybody name a bird.
No, it's a canary. I think it's a canary. I don't remember though. We'll see if that shows up. No. Whoa, what's Google doing? I haven't even clicked enter yet. Okay. Apparently I liked Canada. Okay, so Giraffe, what Giraffe does, and you can go to giraffe.com to see this. It's spelled with a J, which I think is funny. for free if you go through marketplace.commerceguys.com. If you go here and you register your site with Marketplace, then you can register with Giraffe to get a free Google Analytics account for your product data. It's not Google Analytics, but I'm just saying that because Giraffe's kind of an odd duck if you've never heard of them before. You just go to add-ons and you can register for it. This kind of information is really cool because I think it normally costs like $10 or $15 a month to get them to crunch the numbers on your product data and tell you what products are performing really well, etc. Another great one that we have enabled for you, and you can sign up for, I think just a trial, is Yoda. I call it Yoda because I like to think of the little green guy, but you tell me how you pronounce Yottaa. Yada? I don't know. Almost all of these also have screencasts online that we've had and talked about exactly what you can do with these. Kial is cool because you can actually send your packages to stores where your clients can go pick it up. Payleap and some of these others, PayPal, of course you know who they are. So anyway, those come pre-installed or at least available in Kickstart 2, so you can just click Enable. And if we go to my tip number 7 right here, this page is actually in the Kickstart screen, administration screen right here, and you can read a little bit more about them. This particular page is actually going to change in the next version of Kickstart 2. It's going to look a lot fancier. We've got a lot of cool ideas. One of our ideas is for you to see this. We want hundreds, maybe thousands of modules listed here that aren't installed in Kickstart 2. You click a button in your store and it just enables it on your site, as long as you're a Marketplace member. That's what we want to do. We're getting there. We're getting there.
What was the recommendations engine?
Relify? Is that what you were thinking about?
Relify?
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that Ryan did recently. I'm going to go to his project page. Maybe it'll link out to something else. This is recent, but it's already in beta, which means it's relatively stable. And that's cool because you turn it on, and I think you have to sign up for Relify, and I think you can do that through the site to sign up with Relify. And as long as Relify is in beta, I don't think they actually charge you to use their service. And it will relate products together, and when you check out, it will tell you some other products that you might be interested in. So if you bought a baby stroller, maybe you want diapers.
Can you use Relify to relate not products, people, like users, by interests?
That's interesting. I've seen before Relify, because Relify is really new. It just came out like 2 weeks ago. Taxonomy is a great way to do this.
Taxonomy?
Taxonomy. So you use Drupal taxonomy terms, say interests, for example.
Like
and
for users? Like
Yeah. Let's say you have a list of 200 ideas or things that you would want your users to be interested in, and then you go and add those taxonomy terms to all of your products. This one would be interesting. Geeks would be interested in this, or people that are interested in TV shows, this particular TV show maybe, would be interested in this product. And then you just create a view block that connects your users' interests with your product interests in a little filter. Tip number 8. Before we get there, you have to wonder, do you want more tips? And I like this guy. I think it's funny, because I'm not sure what I'm doing sometimes either. This is tip number 8. If you want more, I highly recommend you install Commerce Kickstart, because if you noticed, up here at the top, there are tips by our handy little, always better dressed than all of our developers guy from Commerce Guys. And these things load as you reload the page. Different attributes. It'll, of course, I hit refresh instead of just clicking on products. And you see the same one. There's probably, for every administration page that this shows up, there's maybe 5 or 6 tips. We plan to add a lot more as I get time to write them, probably. But there's a lot more tips inside Kickstart that you can use. Also, I'm going to recommend you follow me, and I'll start tweeting some tips every once in a while for Kickstart, and definitely, because I get paid to, respond to any questions you have about Kickstart. I'd love to hear what you guys are trying to do with it, any questions you might have, because questions that you have, I can turn into feature requests for our developers, and we can actually get get it so that you don't actually have to ask those questions ever again. 1 minute to go, according to my little timer up there. So I'm going to open it up to questions. Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for decreasing page load times in Kickstart?
You know, we get every once in a while questions about performance, and I'm going to refer you to Yoda as a great way to quickly see how your page is performing. What it does is it goes and looks at your page load performance, and some of their services will make it faster. Things you can do for free and are relatively easy are just common Drupal things like turning on page cache. There was a recent module that I posted to DrupalCommerce.org as a sandbox. Here, we'll just search DrupalCommerce.org for performance. So if you have a question like that, is there a module for that? Make the store more performant. There are 5 extensions that are commerce specific that have the word performance in them. They're all sandboxes. Yoda's one of them. So you can use DrupalCommerce.org as kind of like this mind share of, I need to know more about this topic in commerce, and fast it down to what you need. The problem that you're going to face with performance on commerce sites is every person, even anonymous users, open sessions, and sessions tend to kill server performance because what you have in your cart is not what I have in my cart, so I can't cache it on the server. In fact, on one page load, we might re-render that cart 2 or 3 times based on what happens on the pricing and everything else. Maybe you added a coupon that has to be re-rendered. So performance can be an issue. Ryan is famous for saying that he spends $5 a month to use this real milk cheese site, which he sells a couple thousand a year, I think. This is a real site, $5 a month, and it loaded really fast. You can click on pages and just goes through just fine. There's no performance hit. He's probably got a couple hundred products in here without any real performance issues. That being said, there's probably, I'm gonna guess, 30 or 40 less modules than what normal people would use on here, because Ryan might just do a hook form alter and be done with it. So your mileage will vary. Any other questions? None? Some? Yeah?
Does it come installed with Kickstart comic coupons?
Coupons, yes. Kickstart does. Let's see here. Where would you go? Look at that. Discounts. There are some discounts in here that work and some that don't. There was...
How is the discounts module coming?
Yeah, how is that coming? I keep asking. The developers that you need to bug about that probably aren't on IRC very often because they're so busy. This particular module that is called commerce_discount, which you can install, allows you to do an order-based discount or a product-based discount. And you can do money off, percent off. It can be a fixed amount. And you can have a start and end date. And all this really is a fancy way to create a rule. If you're familiar with rules, everything in commerce is run by rules. And so you fill this form out, and it just creates a rule that gets enabled on your system. So let's say I want $5 off all orders. We'll call the discount the high discount. I'm just going to leave the dates off. We'll see what happens.
So this is discount, but not a coupon.
Ah. Okay. Well, I can answer that as well. That's a good point. Discounts and coupons we're trying to merge together because they're kind of a similar idea, but they're very different in the way they'd be implemented. This just changes the price, and it enabled with almost no errors, which is nice. Coupons, there is a really fantastically easy way to do it. You go into line item types, which are extremely buried right here. Line item types are actually entity types, kind of like content types are, right? So you can add fields, etc. So for your product line item type, you could add a coupon code and make it a text field. And then you would have to create a pricing rule that would check that field to match an actual string and reduce it by whatever your discount amount is. So this is very handy, and it's called, if you're going to search and learn more about it, it's called, I'll just search for you, custom line items.
So you're not recommending the Commerce Coupon module?
You can use Commerce Coupon and install it, and you don't have to do any of that. The trick with Commerce Coupon,
It may or may not work.
the trick with Commerce Coupon, the trick with Commerce Discount is there are lots of things that don't work with it and lots of things that do work with it. Mileage may vary. That's something where the industry would grow a great deal if you were to contribute a working solution. But if we look at the extensions, hopefully this brings the one I'm thinking of right to the top. Almost does. This one right here. Sort of. This one's deprecated, but it'll get us there. Okay, so this is the module that I'm talking about, Commerce Customizable Products. There's a 20-minute video where I show you how to create a pizza store where you can add pepperoni, sausage to a product. It configures the product and it changes the price based on that. A lot of people want configurable products. Commerce can't do it right off the bat, but this allows it to happen. So if you want to see that video, I just type in pizza and commerce and I'll probably show up. Funny thing going on there. Any other questions? And I should say, yeah, go ahead.
It's not a Kickstart specific question, but about Drupal commerce.
Yeah.
Understand it's quite flexible. The system, how would there be major obstacles if you want to create to allow the users to maybe, for example, partners to maintain their own, let's say, store to upload. Instead of having one store manager, in case it's much more flexible, you know.
You're asking about marketplace concept, right? Like Etsy, where you can have one store that has lots of stores, or maybe you have 5 stores, but you only have one store administrative interface, like a multi-domain situation, right? Both situations are handled in Drupal very well. You can have user-generated content. You can have like organic groups, that kind of thing. Commerce can sell anything with a price tag on it. So technically, you could sell things that are connected to an organic group. A lot of people are trying to do marketplace. There's a couple big bottlenecks for that. For example, if you want shipping method like UPS, and 2 stores have different authentication credentials, there's currently no way, there's no way you can, unless with a custom module that doesn't exist yet, to have the same shipping method with 2 different credentials. That's something you need to figure out. Another thing that's really problematic for like an Etsy concept is how do you split the payments back into the users? There's lots of talk about how to do that. No one's really implemented anything that works. Some people are looking at order types and connecting multiple order types to a major order type, and then the user sees the meta order type, and then your backend uses all the others to break it down for shipping, etc. That may be the way to go in the future. Again, if you just do, sometimes you just need to know what to search for, but if you just type in marketplace, you'll find a great deal of discussion. This is hosted by Acquia, by the way, and it's like lightning fast. It shouldn't be that fast because I'm logged in. Huge amounts of discussion going on about whether it's possible. Lots of ideas. No one's got a solution yet.
Just a simple question. You said don't use the Commerce Kickstart theme that comes with it.
Sure. You could.
Well, I mean, like, is there any
It comes
advantage to
with.
using it?
It comes
versus
with
using, like Omega, I guess.
It comes with an Omega theme
Okay.
that you could branch off of and use from there.
Okay.
I would have to actually look at the source code to.
I didn't know if there was any features or something that were built into the theme specifically that were only that
I think they're just getting
You can make a theme and use the commerce theme as a base theme.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
am going to give you one word of warning about that. Which
Okay,
is that
sweet.
whoever wrote the CSS, because I'm in the process of doing exactly that.
Aaron
whoever wrote the
Dudenhofer.
CSS got ridiculously specific on a few things.
Yeah.
And I have had to, override individual colors by literally copying and pasting their selector. Because their selector was like 12 levels deep. I have a real
So-
love for whoever wrote that CSS.
That would be Aaron Dudenhofer, and I'm sure he'd appreciate the feedback. Boyan, not Zvanovic, he's our developer. There's another Boyan that does the UI, a lot of UI work within Drupal. Can't think of his last name off the top of my head. He did a lot of the development for the back end as well, as far as design. And trying to remember his name too, the guy who does Omega. Jake Strawn, I think did a lot of the CSS that you're looking at. So maybe talk to Jake.
Overall, it's pretty, it works well, but every so often I run into something with a ridiculously specific selector.
Yes, so when you go in here, there's a Omega Kickstart theme that I highly recommend you use because it's got a lot of help for commerce type sites. And then there's the Kickstart theme, which 99% of the sites out there that have launched with Kickstart that you can really tell are Kickstart because they've just changed like 3 colors are using that theme. And it's very specific to the demo store, which you shouldn't be using.
When upgrading Kickstart, should we wait to upgrade Kickstart as a whole, or upgrade, like, say if a particular module comes out?
Yeah, okay, great question, and one we get often, typically because people are starting to think, well, Drupal is telling me that it should update views, but my Kickstart installation doesn't have the most up-to-date views. The actual fact of the matter is you probably have a slightly modified version of views. So if you were to, I'm just using views as an example. There are a number of patches that get applied for Kickstart, and if you try to update a Kickstart module that's within this profile folder, Drupal will let you because it doesn't care. But if you try to update one of these contrib modules, like maybe flat rate, to something else, you're going to lose the patches that we apply to it. And we try to run a release, particularly when Drupal gets updated, we try to run a release within a day, maybe 2, of any security problems specifically. That's why we have so many versions of Kickstart. But these contrib modules, you're going to want to wait because we've got test frameworks, we've got a developer system where we go through and make sure it's not going to break your site before we send it out to I think there's like 4,000 people using Kickstart now. It's one of the most used distributions in Drupal. And a lot of these modules were written by one of the primary developers. Yeah.
I thought I had read somewhere that there was a recommendation, or maybe there wasn't a recommendation, to move the contrib modules out of the profile directory and down into your
And you will see that in legacy documentation. If you remember where that is, please tweet me a link. Or if you find it again, because we're trying to eradicate that idea. It's a horrible idea.
So your recommendation is to leave everything up in the profile.
Leave everything up in the profile, let the profile deal with the modules it comes with. Because there's lots of things that could happen. Kickstart 1, this is probably a tip I should put in here. If I were building a store, specifically myself, as opposed to telling someone how to build it, I would likely start with Kickstart 1, not 2. That's not necessarily a recommendation to do that, but Kickstart 1, if you go and look at the source code on Drupal.org, you will see, well, not commerce, because I wouldn't recommend commerce by itself unless you know what you're doing. You need some modules like views and ctools and stuff that you get a lot. If you look at the source code for version 1, there's really the only thing that it comes with is views, ctools, and rules. You're going to need these with any Drupal site. And this way, you've got Ryan's stamp of approval, because he's the one that manages the one release, no one else does. And that is definitely the developer de facto. If you're going to go bare bones, start with Kickstart 1. There's literally nothing in Kickstart 1 that you won't use. You might turn off the cart module, but that's core. Yeah, there's plenty of, like, if you do a donation site and you don't even want a cart, you can go straight from product configuration to checkout.